Hi, my name is David Hartmann, and this is part two of a three-part short video series to introduce you to a workshop I'm doing at International Lectures in September. It's on where numerology, archetypes, spirits, and Chinese medicine meet. So the idea of these short videos is to give you more of a sense of what you'll be, I guess, signing up for in the workshop. So let me just bring up. Okay, so this is part two. Would make sense to go back and watch part one if you have not done so already. But there is a quick summary regardless. So again, it's international lectures at Contact der Kontinenten in Soesterberg, September 20, 21 and 22. The idea of the workshop is to provide you with a better understanding of all of the 5-element archetypes, all of the 5 spirits, and key aspects of numerology, namely your ruling life path number, so your date of birth, your personal year number, so every date of birth, every year on your birthday, your personal year number changes. So that changes how, I guess, universal energy comes at you, good, bad, however you want to refer to it. So if you know your personal year number, you can be more within the energy of the universe for that year. And also arrows of Pythagoras, which essentially talk about areas of strengths versus, say, weaknesses, or areas that you can work on. So we're going to look at a quick case study. So 2 people, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, they both have a numerology ruling life path number, RLPN, ruling life path number 2. So both of them have the same numerology number, but their element archetype is different. So what that basically means is you could treat them the same in their numerology number, or you could adjust that slightly to take into consideration their element archetype as well. So in terms of characteristics of a ruling life path number 2, this is really very brief. We go into a lot more detail in the workshop. Basically, they're sensitive of others' feelings, understand others, they're compassionate and supportive. They're extremely capable, confident when tracking at their preferred pace. So whatever pace that is, if they can be in that space, they feel very capable and confident. Don't try to make them go faster or slower than what they like. They're good at looking at both sides of a problem, both from a personal perspective or looking at it from, say, a group setting or other people. Usually they have good emotional control, but that tends to grow with age, I guess, but not necessarily earlier on. Certainly I've noticed that with those 2 people. Don't have full emotional control yet. And one would argue in Chinese medicine anyway, you don't want to not allow yourself to be emotional where that emotion is relevant for that particular event. Very honorable, very good at being peacemakers, reliable, hardworking. They're not motivated by ego. Other ruling numbers do tend to be a little bit more egotistical. They're quite artistic and poetic and have a big heart. So when I look at that and I look back at those 2 people, you kind of grow into your number, I've found. And so at the moment, they both are about 50-50 of each of those. So they're really quite different people, even though in the numerology system, they would be considered to be very similar to one another, but they're just not. And that's because the 18-year-old is a wood archetype and the 16-year-old is a metal archetype. So that changes then through what those are. So if we look quickly at what a wood archetype versus a metal archetype are like, we're going to spend a long time on each archetype here in the workshop. So this is just a very, very quick look. So in terms of their work life, wood archetypes tend to lead, whereas metal are quite happy to be led, but also really happy to work on their own and don't interrupt them when they're in the middle of a flow. Their routines, wood's pretty relaxed unless they're pursuing a goal, and then look out. They just go at it like a bull out of the gate. Metal have a very strict routine and structure that they like. It's reliable, it's consistent, they know it, it works. Grocery shopping, for example, is just something a little bit fun to look at here, some different ways. Wood archetypes love trying new things. Metal tend to have a list that they take with them on a piece of paper, like this, and it'll have all of the grocery items on the list, and they go along and they tick them off as they're done. Not wood archetypes don't do that. Relationships, there's a lot of self-love for wood when they're winning and achieving the things that they're striving for. Metal archetypes love themselves when they're organized and have good systems in place. In terms of love for others, both of them tend to love themselves above other people. Other archetypes love everyone or love other people above themselves. Not so much for these two. In terms of going to parties or gatherings, gathos, wood are very extroverted, loud, and they are a bit self-promoting, telling people the things that they've achieved. Metal prefer to be in a much tighter group, more a one-on-one chat with a peer, or in like a round table setting where everyone are there with a similar interest and they all sort of talk about that interest. In terms of vacations, would tend to just fly by the seat of their pants. They wake up when they wake up. They make decisions a bit more snap. They might walk out the front door of their hotel and they look left and they look right, and that's how they make their decision. Whereas metal archetypes have an itinerary that they tend to stick to. In terms of hypothetical time machine existed, metal archetypes would invent the time machine. Wood archetypes help invent it, and they would want their name on it. Something that's a bit self-promoting, but it's what they feel like. Metal have no interest in putting their name on anything, but they feel very good about achieving something like inventing a time machine, for example. So you can see now that in numerology, these two people that I'm talking about are both a two, and you would treat them in a similar way, even though they're actually quite different. Now, when you put their archetype with it, a wood two or a metal two, you can see they're actually quite different. And so you would treat them more differently. So in that sense, through the workshop, what we'll look at is how you would do that. You look at individual treatments for wood, metal, etc. You look at individual treatments for the numbers, and then you look at treatments when you merge them as well. So you could effectively treat both of these people as a two. You could treat both of these people as a wood or a metal, or you could treat these people as a wood two or a metal two. So different ways of treating the same person. There is usually a secondary archetype that's very much what I call a support act. I'm not sure what that is for these two people yet. I think they're a bit too young for that to be shining through. So as a result, that's not discussed in this particular case study, but it will be in part 3. What that does is it gives you another way of treating people again. So basically, the idea is that you'll get hundreds of different point combinations throughout the 3 days. We talked about that. We talked about it in part 1 of the video, so I don't need to rehash it. But I'm not giving you the treatments now. I'm trying to keep these videos as short as possible for you. And then the next video, the final one, will look at another case study, which is adding the numerology number, the primary archetype, and the support act archetype, and how they change the way that you could treat that person as well. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in September. Thanks.